also, I thought maybe, I don't even know, I thought maybe he was like closer with Carol Baskin than he was, like he...
Yeah, if anything, yeah.
Yeah, because it starts out, and like even the first episode, I was like, what's going on? And it kind of throws you for a loop. It gets you hooked, but you really have to like pay attention to the first episode. But it's kind of crazy how Tiger King has become so big, but I think almost like the producers planned for it to come out at this time. I've read like a few different theories of like how it's gotten so big because it's like quarantine time. What do you think about that?
Yeah.
I wonder if they like it was more strategic than we think.
How about your rating? What's your rating?
Out of 10?
Yeah.
Maybe 7.5.
You serious?
Why?
I was thinking 7.5.
Really?
I was gonna say like I'm not gonna do a regular number. I'm gonna do like 7.5. That seems.
Yeah. Well, I was like maybe 8, but I was like no.
Yeah. I did 7.5.
It's funny. Well, what are some things that you thought about right away?
Well, I didn't know if you want to do a summary or if you just want to get into it.
I feel like by now, most people should have watched it, right?
But like, give a summary for these people who haven't watched it.
Okay, so in a few short words, if I have to say, Tiger King is about a group of people who own tigers here in the U.S., and the main character is likely Joe. Joe is in Oklahoma, right? His zoo is called GW...
Which stands for Great Wonderful.
Okay, I didn't even know that. Great Wonderful...
Right there.
Oh. Great Wonderful Zoo or something. And so he's just kind of like this hick guy in Oklahoma who has his own zoo. He has animals. He's always carrying a gun on his side. And the show's all about tigers, obviously, Tiger King. So Joe has spent the last few years, right? Like he tries to make his own reality TV show. He just wants to be famous. Like he loves, like he, even though like I feel like he probably knows he's a little bit crazy sometimes or theatrical, like he doesn't care. Like he wants to put on a good show and he wants people to know his name. Right?
And then to add something to kind of bring you in, he's a gay polygamist.
Yeah, don't forget that, I guess. When you think it hasn't been already eventful.
Yeah. All right. Let's start it in, okay? So, first episode, it starts off, they're talking about how a zookeeper is going to jail for murder for hire. For you guys who don't know what murder for hire is, it's where you pay someone to go kill someone. So he's in jail.
When you pay someone maybe $3,000, you know?
Yeah. So he's in jail, they're calling him, he's saying, like, if you guys knew what I did, you wouldn't even understand me, so I'm not even...
Yeah, he'd be like, you'll be asking, why is he in jail?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and so then it goes into the intros, it starts talking, Joe's producer, which we'll get into.
Rick.
He starts talking and stuff, he's like, I don't even know where to begin, we'll start here. So they start going into it, how tigers, there's more captive tigers in the U.S. than there are in the wild.
So they said about in wild, tigers that are free roaming is about what? They said 4,000 in the world. And tigers in captivity owned by humans in the U.S. is about 10,000 tigers.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which is crazy.
And then right after that, the scene goes in, Joe Exotic, or what's his name? I can't remember. It's like Joe
Schweigel something.
Schweigel Madagel.
Yeah, that's why no one says it.
Yeah. And then, so he's the owner of the Great and Wonderful Zoo, aka GW Zoo, Exotic Zoo. He loves the camera. Even before he had his producer guy come on, he had everyone film everything. Like, it's just his life.
Yeah, every day they said, like, no matter what was happening, cameras were always on. And he started his own reality show, and he had maybe 80 followers at the most, right?
It was called JoeExoticTV.com.
Which was just kind of like crappy filming. Like
Yeah.
it didn't really look like a show, but it was just kind of like behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah.
So Joe's dream was to have this show like blow up and have him.
And then
be
him be
known.
the star. He's the star. That's
Yeah.
the big thing. Then it also goes in finding out he sings. He has a bunch of, he has 2 albums out.
Which he actually has like a decent voice, and I think those that have seen the show can
Yeah.
say that.
He has his hit. I saw a tiger is a song. And a tiger saw a man.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Um,
But he is pretty popular, just so you know, he's been on the news multiple times for his zoo, all sorts of stuff. There's even Shaquille O'Neal went to his zoo and bought 2 tigers.
Bought?
Yeah.
You bought them?
Yeah.
Where does he have them?
Probably his house, I don't know where he has them.
Oh, what the heck?
Yeah.
I thought like he went there too, but it was also like, Shaquille O'Neal was at the zoo, so he was like promoting it.
Mhm.
What was I gonna say? So Joe's main thing is like he likes to, at first when he starts out the zoo, or not even in the episode, like the first episode, but like in his background, there's interviews with him, and he talks about like how people need to stop breeding tigers, kind of like how he loves animals and stuff, and like throughout the series you can see that fame and money changes him, but also like corruption and like who he is changes his view of animals, and the way that he treats animals kind of worsens, which I hate, because at first you're like, oh, okay, yeah, like people need to stop breeding tigers for just like cub petting, and then they get rid of them, like they're only worth a lot when they're like babies because people can play with them.
Keaton says hi and his mom says hi.
Hello, Keaton. Hello, Jennifer. But don't you think like he changes? Like if you just like think about Joe to the end of this series, like people say that he loses his mind.
We should probably tell Keaton because he said his mom wanted to watch for the Ted Bundy stuff, and we decided not to do the Ted Bundy stuff.
Oh yeah, I need to finish my series on Amazon. So during this time, if you guys want to watch on Amazon Prime, I think, or Amazon, there's a series of Ted Bundy, and it actually is interviews with Ted Bundy's girlfriend and her daughter. Like her daughter's like grown up now and everything, and so they're telling their first-hand account experiences with Ted Bundy, and it's crazy. So everyone start watching that. We'll talk about it on Sunday. Next Sunday.
For sure this time.
Ted Bundy. All
right?
things Ted Bundy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tiger King just got the best of me this week.
Yeah. What else with
So what about all the characters, like the different groups in the show? Because you were good at telling me this the other day, because we were talking about, there's Doc Antle.
Doc Antle?
So he's in in the Carolinas? South Carolina?
Yeah, somewhere down there.
So
Myrtle Beach.
Myrtle Beach, yeah. He has his own zoo as well. He's kind of eccentric. Like, he's grown up with animals, and one big thing about him that, like, if I'm describing him and I, like, forget his name, I'll be like the guy with the elephant. So this guy has an elephant named Bubbles, and he just takes it on walks throughout his neighborhood. He rides it, takes it to the river.
Bhagavan, Doc.
Bhagavan, and then they said that Bhagavan means like some type of Christ, or like follower of Christ, or friend of God, or something.
No,
like that.
that's another word. That's his actual name. The word that you're talking about, I know you're talking about.
But they kind of use it to describe him.
Yeah,
Cause, like
means Lord or something.
Lord, yeah, because he's like in charge of this so-called almost cult
Bagheera's doing fine.
that he has.
Now we are going to meet Carol Baskins.
Carol Baskin. Carol
Um,
Baskins.
basically, so we find out when we first go to the interview, it's her at her house doing an interview. She's all done up, kind of hippie-ish kind of style, head
She
down.
wears just animal print head to toe and a flower
But,
crown every day.
They actually show up, before they show her, they show like an interview, like of old days, where she's in a cage, and behind her is her own tiger in her like bigger sanctuary cage, which for me is kind of like,
So
Come on.
she's doing that too to be like, cages are too small for tigers, right?
Yeah.
And so she claims that she saves these tigers from people, from circuses, like
Yeah.
which they can't go to the wild, so they come to her sanctuary, which is called Big Cat Sanctuary, and she kind of saves them, but they're also still in cages, obviously. But it's also like a zoo, right?
Mhm.
People can go there. She has people
She
volunteer.
makes money, millions.
She makes money. She has volunteers who help take care of the animals, and they have different levels they go through to be like trainers, but they don't get paid. Like they're doing this so they can be close to animals. So she kind of has it figured out. Like she has a good business plan, where she's saving animals, but has a zoo, which is, it's controversial, for sure.
Yeah.
So her and Joe's relationship.
Yeah, then it goes into her and Joe, okay? And how it started, Joe just has a zoo. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, Joe's reading something and sees someone talking bad about a zoo and talking about tigers. Finds out it's Carol Baskins shouting him out.
Yeah, Carol Baskins basically attacks him because he's really into like breeding the baby cubs. He has them on billboards, like people. That's like kind of the main attraction, I feel like, for his zoo is for people to come and hold and pet and like kiss, take pictures of baby tigers. And so she immediately attacks him for this, saying like, this is not safe, this is like what's wrong with tigers right now, like look at them, this is how they end up at my sanctuary because of what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so Joe, like, he likes to be the center of attention, but like he turns this into like, oh, this Carol Baskins, she's crazy, like I hate her, like I'm gonna kill her, like she, is just trying to, talk about
and
me
so
in that way.
Yeah, they go more and talking about her and stuff, and like I said, she has like a small cage. She has like a big sanctuary is what it is, which is full of trees and stuff. But you look at behind her where the animals eat. They go into a small little cage and they eat. Sometimes they poke their head through a little hole to eat. So it's like
a cage within a cage.
It's a little confusing how she wants to.
Them.
Wants to make them.
But she does her own lives and Facebook lives and videos and.
She's really good at social media.
Yeah, she's all like, "What's up, cool cats and kittens?"
Yeah.
So that's why I kind of started off like that. But she has them, and on her lives and stuff, you can see these tigers in small cages eating. And so Joe takes that and is like, that cage is smaller than my cages at the zoo, you know? So they just like go back and forth, fighting, saying things over social media, and
just trying to nitpicking at each other.
Carol claims that she's probably like spent lots of money like trying to like shut him down. So Joe actually, to make a lot of money, he took like a big diesel and went around to different malls, in towns and countries, so people could pet these baby tigers. And so Carol had. Is that what you were gonna say?
No, I got stuff before that, so go for it. Though. Go for it.
Well, I was just saying that. This is something that she likes to shut down right away. Like, she had so many people email the malls, make it this huge thing, like, that this should be ended, and there shouldn't be baby tigers in malls, it's unsafe. And so that's kind of like, I feel like one of the first main things that she does that makes him crazy.
Yeah.
Because she's affecting his money, his income.
Well, they would make sometimes $10,000, $30,000 per mall. And so they're saying like those mall shows could feed a whole winter for their tigers. And so as soon as she shut that down, that kind of really like hit them financially.
Panic mode a little bit.
And so, in a way, I'm not saying she helped, but in a way she kind of pushed him to breed more baby cubs.
Because that's how he makes money. That's true.
And so, it's kind of like, catch-22 kind of thing. But I don't know. So before, what I was going to say is they also introduce her. What is that?
Creepy ass husband.
Yes. I wanted you to read it. That's all.
Okay.
Okay, and this guy is just weird. Okay, like he is like funky weird throughout the whole series. He is just like got weird vibes to him.
He's just like a loopy kind of like tall gangly guy who's like,
Carol,
my love.
Yeah.
He like sings a lot and it's
And
just
then,
like weird.
But like he's total the biatch, basically, I'd say.
Yeah, he
like,
does whatever Carol wants and Did he even have any type of background with animals?
No one.
It seems like he just
no
kind
one said
of
anything about that.
they became a couple, and he was just like.
But like in their wedding
tiger.
pictures, like he's like dressed up like tiger stuff on him,
Oh,
and then
yeah.
like the one tiger pic, he has like a leash on. He's on all fours.
And she's like holding.
He's like an old, wrinkly man too, and so this is even more
Yeah.
creepier.
He's a lot older than her too, right? She's old.
I don't know. Well, so do you want to go into that? To her 3 husbands.
Yeah, she has had 3 husbands, so.
Let's go to that. So
Carol's background is kind of like, she was walking around on the streets one night. She was kind of in despair. Like, she had an abusive husband. She had a daughter with him. And then this guy, what was his name?
Don
Lewis?
Don
Okay, I was
Lewis.
going to say Dean or something. So there's a story of this guy, Don Lewis, who sees her in distress, pulls up to her and is like, hey, like, are you okay? Do you want to go for a drive? Which, that's creepy vibes. So she's like, no, leave me alone. And then he, like, drives around, comes back to her again and was like, hey, like, I feel like you really need help. Get in my car. Here, I have a gun. You can...
Well, he had a fight too, and he wanted to get stuff off his chest. So how he kept getting there is, I just really need to have someone to talk to. You can have the gun on me the whole time.
Like,
I just need
point it at
I
me.
just
I'm
need to
not
talk
gonna
to
do
you.
anything. And so she's like, okay. So she got in the car with him, points the gun on him the whole time, and they talk.
They talk forever.
They
Then they go
have a
back.
relationship.
Then they go back to the motel that night and.
Yeah. So they basically fall for one another. Was he divorced at that time, or like after that they still
No,
left?
they were both still married.
They're both still married. Then
I can't remember if
leave
that, but
them.
even after a little while after that, he was still married, and then they finally got divorced, and then he was with Carol.
Okay, because in the series, Don's daughters are grown up. They're sitting there with their mom.
So that's another thing is Dawn is 22 years older than Carol,
Right.
and so she's like what 17
So she's
right
like
now.
even around his daughter's ages, right?
Yeah, she already was married and had a kid at 16 or something, and
Oh,
then
yeah,
and
she was
then
like, "We got
this
married
this like her when she was 19 is when he went and found her. So he's like
Yeah, I think she got married at like 14.
he was
or 17.
41. Was that 22? 19? Yeah.
Yeah, so he's just a crap ton older than her. Drama with both sides of their families. They get married. They're together now.
They get married. He has a lot of money. He's
Yeah,
really
he's a
poor looking though. He's not
millionaire.
like that guy. He's a millionaire. A bunch of people speculated how much they thought he was worth. His lawyer said he was more close to around $5 million in worth.
Yeah, like anywhere from like $1 million to $10 million, basically.
But
Self-made millionaire.
they both had this fascination with cats, which is another funny thing that I forgot to bring up. Carol Baskins is allergic to cats.
What?
I missed that on that first time going around on that rewatch. That's what I caught.
But she has like house cats too, right?
Yeah, well.
Don't you remember like some cats walking
So
around
she
the
talks
house,
about how
maybe?
she has tile floors and a lot of like hard surfaces around the
I
house.
remember that. Okay.
But yeah, so
So Don Lewis.
they end up starting. They first went to an auction, and there was a bobcat that was for sale,
Right.
and the taxidermist was just gonna
Oh,
kill
yeah.
it, and do the whole taxidermy, and so
in her mind, they bought the cat to save it.
They
right?
bought it to save it. And then that started their kind of addiction where they went around and almost bought all the bobcats.
Didn't they say that they had like so many bobcats? Like
There's not any more they could find.
I don't even know. Like I want to say like almost 100 or even like
Yeah.
around that number. Like they had a lot.
Yeah.
And so this kind of started their.
God, Game of Thrones, nice. We'll do that next. But yeah, so.
This started their journey and fascination with animals, cats.
Yeah. And
building
so
their empire sanctuary, but they also bought animals.
they made a zoo off this,
Right.
which is called Wildlife on Easy Street.
Right. Which Carol, she kind of like loves animals too. Like you get that vibe. Like you
Yeah.
know that she wants to be a voice and loves animals.
Said she
but
had imaginary cats.
yeah. But also like to her husband, this is more you can tell for him it's more of a money thing. Like
Yeah.
he's kind of doing it for the money. He's building a zoo.
Mm-hmm.
Like so you have these two different personalities together too.
Yeah.
And apparently, as their zoo gets going, Don liked to travel to Costa Rica a lot just because he had a lot of fun there. He had business stuff there, right? Like, and so he was going back and forth. He was always on work trips.
Just always going to Costa Rica, basically.
You go right into that.
And then Don starts talking to his ex-wife, his friend, lawyer, bunch of people saying he doesn't trust this woman. He even went to
his office manager.
Yeah.
She was really close to him.
Yeah, and he even went to the courthouse or whatever to get a restraining order on Carol, saying that she was threatening to kill him.
So his daughter said that, like, he never really cared about the law. He never went to the law or police for help with anything. So for him to get that restraining order was, like, huge. But also his office manager that he was close with, did he give her a letter?
Mm-hmm.
He gave her a letter of something saying, like, if anything happens to me, basically, like, Carol did it, but, like, here's some information.
Yeah.
So he's kind of scared of his life. You get these vibes from people after the fact that come forward and say this.
And so he does go and tell a friend. He's like just accidentally mentioning. He's like, if I can get away with this, it'll be the biggest thing I've ever done. And so that was kind of a weird sign. And then like a couple days later, he goes on one of his Carol says that he went off on one of his Costa Rica trips. Anyways, he wasn't checking in, didn't get back or anything. Yes, I'll be on tonight. Talks about basically how he was going to do this. He's gone for a while. His office manager goes and checks him with Carol and says, "What's going on?" And Carol's like, "I don't know. Should I do a missing persons report?" And then the office manager's like, "You think?"
Yeah, like he's
like
missing.
Yeah. And so, anyways, they do a missing persons thing. Goes on for a little while. They find his van just stationed right at this airport where his planes would be, but a lot of missing weird things going on with this. None of his known planes are gone, and his van.
He had private jets.
His van is just sitting in the parking lot with the keys in it, and his briefcase in it.
So like things that he would need.
Just chilling there. So
that was suspicious.
So another bad thing. People don't know if this is true or not. Carol's brother works for the police department there, and so this whole situation was also pretty sketchy.
Wait, wasn't it weird when she was like, my brother, I didn't even really know him. Like, she was like, what did she say? When I was 14 or 15, he was like 9. And when she said that, I was expecting you to say, like, just born, or, I was like, that's not even that big of a difference. Like,
yeah.
So that was weird.
And so the police department says for basically her or any of the workers to take the van back to her house. They didn't go through it or nothing. Anyways, a couple days pass by, and the police officers say, "Oh, can we go through the van now?" And they don't find nothing but some fingerprints from his mechanic.
Which, yeah, that's
was
obvious.
normal because it's his mechanic. And so, there was a really bad police work there. Another things they didn't check for were, some of the tigers, when they dissolve bones, or
their stomach acid is so strong.
Yeah, it's so strong, bone just, go.
Well, yeah, they can dissolve bones in their stomach.
And
his ex-wife and daughters are suspicious of Carol right away.
Mm-hmm.
Like, maybe she has something to do with his disappearance. She knows more than she's letting on. And this whole time in the episodes and stuff, Carol's like, I didn't know where my husband was. Like, I was sad. I was looking for him. Maybe he had, like, dementia. Like, he wasn't himself lately, which no one can confirm that. Only she says that. Everyone
close to him, his lawyer, his friends said he did not have anything. He
was sharp. He was on it.
His lawyer especially was saying, like, this man, he knew what he was doing. He knew when he was doing it.
He's like a strong, smart business guy. Like, he wasn't losing it.
So going back to the whole airport thing, so say if he even stole an airplane, there was none of the airplanes in that airport could make it to Costa Rica on one trip. They would have to take multiple stops and stuff on the way to Costa Rica. And so they're saying that just couldn't happen. And this is where she says that he flew many times even though his license got revoked, underneath the radar so you couldn't see, and he also crashed his plane a couple times. And so she's playing off, he probably crashed his plane, or he has dementia. She's trying to find multiple excuses, you know.
Basically, she's just like, I don't know where he is, and I have nothing to do with it.
And I'm just going to say it. I think she killed him.
For sure.
I mean, I could even see her or him trying to kill her maybe, and then she killed him. But I think this is the way, you know.
Yeah, at first I was like, I don't know who to believe, but then as it goes on and how like people are suspicious, even like the police, like they're investigating, and like the way Carol reacts and responds, and I feel like she's capable of it.
Well, yeah, well, there's something
She
later
led her husband
later
to
in
the Tigers.
something later in the season where Joe, this is kind of like a jump, but Joe thought someone put cologne on his shoes.
Because he's in the cage.
He's in the cage, and then they're like attacking his shoes and stuff.
Like smelling him, they're really like interested.
And then it cuts to Carol. He said, if someone really wanted to kill him, they would have put some sardine oil on him all over. And so it's like a.
You're like, okay, is that what
okay,
you know? Yeah, that worked out for you.
Yeah.
So there's lots of memes and funny things about this too, but I think a lot of people can agree that she is shady, and she either killed her husband or she knows what happened to him.
Yeah. So after a couple of years go by, they finally declare him dead, and so
after 5 years,
one of the things she does is hurry and goes to the wills, or as some would say, like may have changed some things.
Yeah,
on his will, it said, upon my disappearance.
By death
not
or
upon,
disappearance, which, who puts disappearance in their will?
And so that was a big flag, and basically she took almost everything, and then the daughters were trying to fight, and she said, I can take everything.
Yeah, and she was like, even though you're estranged from your dad, like, I know that maybe someday he would want to fix his relationship with you, so I'll keep you guys in the will, like, being like, oh, like, I'm so nice to you. But what did the daughters say? Like, they got maybe 10% or less of everything.
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't much at all. But I think that's the most we should get on Carol Baskins.
Yeah.
Back to Joe. Joe, now we're starting to learn more about him. We find out when he's singing his songs, I Saw a Tiger, we get a first shot of his first husband, John, who's missing all of his teeth.
Right.
They were married for, 11 years.
He has tattoos all over his body saying
even
like
has
Joe Exotic.
right on his pelvis,
what
saying like
property
owned by
Exotic.
Yeah. This guy's missing all his teeth, but this guy was straight growing up. He was with girls, he said, and all this. 19 out of high school, meets Joe. Bang bang, literally.
Yeah. So Joe is older than him.
Oh yeah.
By a little bit, but he's also like. They kind of talk about, like, being around Joe is, like, and being around the animals and tigers, it's kind of like a spiritual fit. Like, being around a tiger gives you, like, adrenaline, like, feeling, and a lot of people talk about, like, people were drawn into Joe. Like, a lot of people hated Joe because he wasn't that nice.
Mm-hmm.
He bossed people around, like, he was always swearing and freaking out at people. So people didn't really like him, but they liked being around the animals and, like, kind of the money aspect of it. So I think for him to bring in his husband, like, that had a big part of it. Like, that feeling, because it's like they were able to get things from him, like, he had money, got to be around these, like, huge exotic creatures, so
yeah,
I think that kind of helped. Even though they were just straight, you know, it's kind of crazy to think about, like, oh, I'm gay now because I like all those things, but he had a way with people.
I don't know, how much do you want to get into this show without giving away everything?
Well, I think last week we talked about a lot and then told people to, you know, like...
Well, that's what I said. We can still talk more on this. I just don't know how much we want to give away.
Right.
We'll just touch on things. So, another thing happens later in the series, or episodes. He takes on a second husband, another young, right out of high school kid. And
Travis.
A lot of people say how he did this was meth and little tigers. Apparently that's all you got to do. One of the famous lines he says, when you're looking at porn, do you look at you like the small wiener or the big wiener? And the guy said the big wiener. Well, I'll tell you what, you're not that straight, you know.
Yeah, that was weird.
Yeah.
That's a meme I've seen a lot too with like hot dogs. You know, like which hot dog do you like better, the small one or the big one?
Ew.
Goes into a lot of things. Joe constantly fights with Carol all the time.
He's always threatening her on his channel.
Yeah, threatening
He has a blow-up doll, and like he calls it Carol.
On his live TV, he had the doll right here. Just goes, grabs the gun, pops it right in the head on.
Shoots the blow-up doll. So
Joe,
basically, Carol sees all this too. She's aware.
Joe starts losing money. It's getting pretty bad. He takes on a partner, Jeff.
Oof.
Jeff at first seems like a good
guy who's rich. He drives nice cars.
Has all this, fascination with cats, and he's got money. That turns into a whole big thing. But meanwhile, so he turns the zoo over to him, but Joe still wants to be the main character.
And Joe did this a few times,
yeah.
Just because, he was in trouble with things. And
Joe decides to run for president.
2016.
2016.
What?
Starts to figure out it's probably not likely, and he doesn't, really get that. Doesn't want to wait till 2020 for the next election.
Yeah, people think this is hilarious too, but he really wants to run for president, but I think he just likes the fame of people laughing about it. But he's like, either way, if people were talking about him in a bad way or good way, he was like, at least they're talking about me.
Yeah.
He was the Tiger King.
He was on all sorts of shows. You think Trump or Hillary was the craziest? Look at this guy, Anyways, he ends up running for governor of Oklahoma.
Yeah, so he's like, if I can't be president, I'm going to go for the next best thing.
And so, trying to say he's doing this all for the Tigers and stuff, he's putting his face on everything.
He's spending lots of the zoo's money on his campaign.
Shirts, even condoms with his face on it. And it's like, what?
Yeah.
You're not even a governor. Why are you...
Yeah. Crazy. So during this time, too, Jeff is brought in, and Jeff is saying, why are you spending your campaign money, from the zoo? I'm a business partner,
Jeff
too.
also goes to prison, or jail, for a year or something.
In Vegas, because he would...
good long time.
Yeah, and he would go to Vegas.
Yeah. And
put, baby cubs in suitcases and wheel them up through the casino to hotel rooms and have people come and, play with them. That's how you, make money on that.
And his mansion that was rented had a bunch of baby cubs, and that's where he got in trouble too.
Yeah. So Joe finds out about Jeff. He's not who he thought he was in the beginning. He kind of is in debt. He doesn't own. But yeah, he rented that place that he was living at. Some of the cars aren't his.
Well, and then as he's coming back, he gets a call from one of his old friends who's going to be kind of a confidential informant, and kind of tells Jeff that Joe's kind of screwed. He's got some...
He's being investigated.
Is it money laundering or something
Embezzlement.
like that? Embezzlement, yeah. And it's all sorts of trying to take him down. And so this is where we get to the whole... Kind of zoom in this last little part. We took a while on the first, but I'm kind of zooming towards the end just because I don't want to spoil the whole thing.
Uh-huh.
But basically, you get to see where they kind of trick and trap Joe into this little thing about the, murder for hire.
Yeah, and Jeff's name is kind of owner of the zoo now.
Yeah.
So he owns the zoo, even though it's Joe's zoo.
Kicks Joe out of the zoo, everything. And...
There's a fire.
There's a fire.
Rick.
Speculation of Rick, the producer.
So Rick was hired by Joe to help him make his TV show bigger, make it look more professional, get more viewers, and Rick has done this before. So he was brought on. He lived on the zoo for a year, filming everything.
Yeah.
And
he kind of helped blow up the whole TV show, make it all really good. So
he helped make Joe.
His defense basically to that whole fire, because everyone's saying that Carol gave him money. His defense is that was my millions of dollars I was gonna make.
Yeah, he wanted to retire on this.
And so he said he broke down and cried when he saw it, and so immediately Joe took him out, because Joe actually tried to go to the court and try to say he doesn't need Rick anymore.
But Rick was saying, I own Joe Exotic TV.
This is the contract. I own it. I'll take it and run.
And so they had this disagreement, and then all of a sudden Joe leaves town for 2 days for a supposed funeral.
Yeah.
And during this time is when the fire happens. Over 8 alligators die in this fire. So the next, like before the fire, Rick goes into this place. The locks are changed and everything. So all of his footage is in here. And so then this fire happens. So at first I thought like maybe Carol did hire someone. Maybe she's behind this. But like after listening to an interview with Rick Kirkham, the old guy with the hat, like the producer guy, I feel like Joe may be responsible. Honestly.
Yeah.
Like they had this disagreement. What are the odds of this timing? He just blows up this place with all the film in it. It's suspicious. I think it was Joe. So during this time, Joe's trying to look for the person who did this, offers a reward for any information. They have to start to rebuild. Rick Kirkham is devastated. This was all his footage, you know. What's he gonna do?
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to add on this?
Well, I'll just touch on this briefly. I watched an interview with David Spade and Rick Kirkham, and he's talking about his experience on the zoo. He lived on the zoo for about a year with his film crew. He talked about how disgusting, how gross the zoo was, the living conditions, talked about the weekly Walmart meat truck, which Walmart would come and bring their expired meats. And the workers, the zoo keepers, the trainers, they all went through the meat when it would come, pick out the best things for themselves, which it was all expired and likely warm, you know, so for themselves. They would get $100 a week for working 24/7, you know, every day of the week. And so,
well, he also kind of put their rent in it though, so they don't have to pay rent because they're living on.
Yeah, but all the people he hired kind of didn't really have anywhere else to go.
Yeah.
They were like drug addicts, just released from jail, kind of like. So he kind of preyed on them. Yeah, so Rick Kirkham talks about the living conditions of this, like how gross it was. He had a little dog with him, and how like at night you can just hear the tiger just roar right outside his window, like, and his dog was scared, and he just goes into this. But he talks about Joe a lot, which is interesting, about kind of behind the scenes, like things that you don't really see. But the main thing like that I took away from this is Joe isn't exactly who I thought he was. Like, I know he's crazy and he's done some bad things, but Rick talks about this and touches light on Joe. So after, I don't want to spoil anything too, but after all this interview with him, I'm like, okay, sometimes you kind of feel for Joe, and you're like, does he really deserve what he gets in the end? But also, I'm like, he's not a good guy.
Yeah.
So after watching the interview, he tells about some things that he saw Joe do, which is heartbreaking too. But then after filming and everything, Rick talks about how he literally went to therapy. Like, he had to go to therapy to recover from like what he saw, and how like his integrity as a producer was kind of lost during this time, just because he lived there all the time, saw what was happening, and kind of just like lost himself a little bit. So if you've watched all of Tiger King, I recommend you look up this interview. Back to you.
No, I just had the fun fact that you showed me about Joe's bracelet and crutch that he always has. Do you want to touch on that?
Oh, yeah. So a lot of the time during the show, you see Joe just in the tiger cage. He's filming. He has one crutch and a knee brace, and a lot of the time, they don't even talk about this. Like, why is his knee hurt? And so for me, I was like, oh, he probably just has a bad knee too. But like the way his brace, like he was wearing, I was like, oh, maybe he had an ACL surgery, because that's what it looked like. But I found this video online and I sent it to Jalen, and that's what he's talking about. And it shows footage of Joe in the cage with a tiger, and a tiger basically like was chasing him, grabbed him in the leg, pulled him down, and then kind of like attacked him. And so that's what this is from. He's wearing like a knee brace. He probably had surgery or something, and is recovering from this, but they never talked about it in the show. They only talk about the main injury of Saf, the trainer, right? Her arm being bit off. which is
I think it's time.
what? So did Carol do it? Did Carol deserve it? Let us know what you think. Drop it in the comments.
Oh, whoops.
You can't ever do that, right?
Okay. Game of Thrones.
Wow. Where do we even start?
Just not at season 8.
Yeah, there's 8 seasons. Let's start off with your rating.
9.
9? Solid. I guess it depends. If I'm gonna wrap the whole thing into one,
Everything into one.
I'm not gonna give it a 9. I'm gonna give it an 8.
Wow. I thought you'd give it a 10.
No, because just so you guys know, I'm so disappointed on how it all ended. I'm not gonna tell you how it ended. I'm just so disappointed. That's why I'm gonna get an 8.
Okay. I can think about what your dad's rating would be.
What?
Out of 10. A
What?
million.
A million out of 10?
No, you think?
I don't know.
He loves Game of Thrones. He knows everything about it. Okay. So I give it a 9, I think, because it's heavy. There's a lot into it. You can tell like there went into like a lot of stuff into making it. Actually, there's dragons. There's magic. There's
White Walkers.
White Walkers. There's the Wall.
What is
There's
a
battles.
White Walker?
A White Walker is a person who died, but their body was never burned, and so.
Well, that's the White Walker army.
I thought White Walkers could just come back to life if they weren't burned. Like anyone who dies could be a White Walker and be like.
That's a White Walker army. White Walkers are like the actual, like the frozen people.
Okay, explain.
Okay. So White Walker, they were first started on by the children, the Forest Children, and it was get back at the people. Did a whole little spell. Basically, there's a frozen guy, got his powers, Night King. Okay, he's got all his powers. They can make more of the White Walkers, but they need like a remember the baby. They get the baby.
Like sacrifice.
Sacrifice. They turn that baby into a White Walker. You know, like a frozen person, okay? They're not... The White Walker army is the dead army. Okay. So they're not actually really White Walkers. They're just the dead army.
Okay. They're basically sketchy, so...
Anyways, I don't know really where to start with Game of Thrones, other than let's go right into Winterfell
Starks.
and the Starks.
Something that I was thinking about... So, people know Game of Thrones, you know, like the Starks are the main family. They're kind of everyone's favorite. Ned Stark is the dad. They have a bunch of kids, except Jon Snow is supposedly a...
Bastard.
And so Ned's wife, what's her name?
Catherine?
Cat?
Cat for sure.
Yeah. So she hates Jon Snow because...
Catelyn.
Yeah, Cat. So she hates Jon Snow because she believes that he is Ned's son with a different woman.
And Ned Stark is an honorable man. He would never
cheat on his
never
wife.
even think about it. So everyone thinks like, whoa, this is Ned Stark's big thing that he did.
Yeah, so when Jon is born, he brings him home and he's like, lives with their family. And so like the whole time Catelyn is just, she's a total jerk to Jon Snow. She doesn't even want to look at him. Like she treats him like a bastard.
You know, we're not going to give a lot of spoilers out there, but long story short.
Long story short.
Jon Snow does have Stark blood.
Right, because he's Ned's son.
You guys, in a way.
Right?
In a way.
Okay, so something right off, you learn about the Starks, you learn about the Lannisters, a bunch of different families. Who is your favorite character?
My favorite character, I feel like, I don't know, there for a little bit I had like 2 or 3, but you know, it was always Jon Snow.
Right. He's just like a really good leader, smart, honorable.
Well, in the first couple seasons, he's not really, you know, the big dude, like the guy that's gonna save everybody. He's just kind of like the bastard son going to the wall. The wall is what separates the north, the wildlings, the wild people that aren't of the kingdom. And, it's a big, huge ice wall.
What is it called? The Night's Watch?
The Night's Watch. They cannot have children, anything like that.
They basically dedicate their life to this.
Yeah, it's their whole life. And a lot of people who are like rapists, whatever, they, have to go up there, all this stuff. Or just dishonored family members, bastards, all sorts of things.
Yeah.
Robb Stark, also another one of my favorites. I'll tell you something, Ned Stark wasn't my favorite.
No.
And it's not, now watching it now, I love Ned Stark, but watching it back then, all I could think of Ned Stark was off of Lord of the Rings, and it just pissed me off that he kept on doing the whole stuff with the ring. All I could think was Ned Stark that way.
But how could Ned Stark be anyone's favorite? Because he's literally there for 2 seconds, too.
Well, 2 seconds, but that's a whole season.
Is he there for a whole season?
Yeah.
I feel like it was 1 episode.
Spoiler.
If you haven't seen the first season, it's your fault. Favorite character, I immediately think of Jon Snow too, just because he's such a big character, but I think my favorite character is Daenerys Targaryen.
AKA?
Khaleesi.
AKA?
Mother of Dragons.
AKA?
I don't know.
Breaker of Chains.
Etc., etc. She's just like, at first you meet her and she's with her brother who is basically selling her, right? Like, he's selling her to the Dothraki. Because he wants to be a
just
king.
Dothraki.
It sounded right for a second. So he basically knows that his sister is gonna be, like, treated bad, but he doesn't care because he just wants his sister to marry Khal Drogo.
Well, and the big thing is the Targaryens used to be the
Mad King.
The king. It was the Mad King and all this. And they were all this, and the Mad King basically was just killing people, being just horrible, always thought someone was out to get him. Jaime Lannister, part of the Lannister family, stabbed him in the back, started a whole revolution where Robert Baratheon came in, took the king, went to seek that all Targaryens are dead, so the Targaryens fled. So that's where they're clear over, far away. Can't really remember where they are at this point, but they're nowhere near King's Landing, where's the King's Throne and all that is. Just to get a little backstory, so that way. So, anyways, he's trying to get the kingdom back, and so he's using the Dothraki army to do that.
Yeah. Oh, and he doesn't care if his sister gets hurt. He doesn't care who gets in his way.
Yeah.
He wants to be king. He wants to get back on that throne.
The whole army, rape you or whatever.
Oh yeah, he was like, I don't give a crap about you.
If that means I get my throne.
Yeah. So this is where you meet Daenerys. How she's just like thrown into this. She's sweet. She's innocent. But as the time goes on, she grows from it. She becomes strong. She knows like she's not gonna take orders from anybody. Like, she actually falls in love with Khal Drogo.
Before that, they get married and they get a present. Well, she gets a present at their marriage.
And their ceremony and everything.
Which is 3 dragon eggs.
Dragon eggs, which are old.
Dragons have been extinct.
For years.
No longer around. Which, do you want to speed through season 1? Or speed through? Season goes on. Okay. Well, Bran Stark, because we got to touch on him, right? He's a climber.
He's a young kid in the first
He's
season.
climbing up. It's the end of episode 1. Okay, he's climbing up a castle. Looks inside, sees the queen, Cersei Lannister, which is Cersei Baratheon, married to Robert Baratheon, is having sex with her twin brother, Jaime Lannister.
Twin brother.
And so Bran Stark's like, dang.
And they see him.
They see him. Go catch him. And then the famous line.
Jaime is holding on to Bran.
The famous line, the things I do for love.
And he goes.
Pushes him off. They think this kid's going to die.
He just fell so many stories straight on his back.
Yeah. Anyways,
there is attack on him later in the season. You'll see that. I'll just speed through it. Then he wakes, and then they're all worried that he saw, but he can't, remember what happened.
He was kind of in a coma for a while.
But he's paralyzed now.
Yeah.
And this kind of starts a whole revolution where Ned Stark tries to look into it, tries to go on the whole thing.
He knows something about...
He takes his two daughters to King's Landing to the King's Hand. Forgot that part. And Sansa Stark is wanting to marry Prince Joffrey. Her favorite character of all time.
Worst character. I put it right here in my notes. Worst.
So that's a big thing. Then Ned gets... Oh, I know. They go on a hunting trip with Robert Baratheon. And Robert...
An accident happens or something, right?
Robert got bitten by a boar or something like that.
Basically, during this time, he gets some type of sickness infection.
Yeah, and so during this time, Ned starts to look into some of the stuff with Joffrey and why Joffrey has blonde hair. And all of their kids have blonde hair. And the dad's like, brown hair,
scruffy
burly,
guy, dark hair.
And finds out that the King's Hand before that got murdered, supposedly, found out the same thing too. They are Jaime Lannister's kids. Incest, yeah.
To the max.
Anyway, so then Baratheon dies, and Ned tries to go,
So,
arrest...
Baratheon told Ned, right? That he was like his first right hand, right? He was close to the king, like he was like the right hand guy. So when the king dies, Ned is kind of supposed to help take over and rule the kingdoms until
until Joffrey is.
Yeah.
But Cersei doesn't want anything about that. She doesn't like Ned, and so she just wants to put Joffrey right at. This is another thing is.
Which he's probably.
Baratheon has an older child than that, an actual child, who was a bastard child that Baratheon did not know about, and so Ned.
Which actually looks like him.
Yeah. Anyways, Ned gets taken captive when he tries to go against Cersei on this. He tries to do it the right way, but Cersei has basically people that are gonna, backstab Ned for her. This puts in a whole rise in the north where Winterfell is, and Robb Stark, Ned Stark's oldest son, starts a whole thing. This is the whole thing we start the King of the North. And they start battling straight up with the Lannisters. And
they become enemies
King's
quickly.
Landing. Sansa Stark is still trying to stay loyal to Joffrey. One, to keep her own life. One, to save her dad's life. And
right
she
away,
wanted to be queen, too.
Yeah, right away everyone knows Joffrey is just, like, a douchebag. Like, he doesn't care about what anyone wants, thinks. It's all about him. He likes to see people in pain. He likes to see people hurt. So now with this new power of being the king, it just heightens everything.
Yeah.
It's annoying.
I mean, you already spoiled it. There's a big sort of ending to episode 9. But if they want to catch on to that, they can catch on to it. If they're not, we'll just skip over it.
Okay.
Season 2, okay. Arya is also down there, and she sneaks out. Sansa stayed there, but Arya sneaks out, okay. So she's with basically the Night's Watch people that are going back up to the wall where Jon is, but they're going to take her back to Winterfell. And she gets lost along the way, goes up to Castle Rock where all the Lannisters are. There's a whole big long story.
Arya is one of my favorite characters too, I think.
Well, her character arc was probably one of the best.
Yeah.
Hers, I mean, John's was really good there for a while, but like I said, season 8 kind of like this for him. Even though I still love Jon Snow.
Yeah.
But his character was good. Same with Jaime Lannister. I mean, his starts off really bad, but his goes boom.
Especially with him and Brienne of Tarth's relationship. It makes you feel for Jaime a little bit more, and...
Brienne of Tarth is who I think we meet her in season 2. Or no, we meet her in season 1. It's season 1, yeah, with Baratheon's brother. I can't remember if it's season 1 or 2.
Yeah. Because she was kind of in that camp with
Baratheon's gay brother.
Yeah.
That no one really, like, they might know he's gay, but, you know, it's not, like, spoken publicly. It's, like, said privately. But, yeah.
So what is the guy's name? I put it on my note. I can't remember his name. The guy that's always like riding a horse says like he was burned in the fire. Scarface. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Oh.
What's his name?
The Hound.
The Hound. I don't know why I forgot. So something that I like really like, one of my favorite things about Game of Thrones is kind of his relationship with Arya. Just because like they come in and out of each other's lives. Good and bad, like they come together to like conquer at times, and then like there's times where Arya leaves him for dead and he's bleeding, and when you see the Hound, he just at first, right? Is he in Winterfell or?
Well, he's riding with the king.
Okay, yeah. So at first he's just kind of like a guy who does dirty work. Like he's not really a good guy. He's kind of like he has scars on his face, so.
Well, that has to do with his brother, the Mountain, who the whole story was. I think he went to go play with the Mountain. The Hound went to play with the Mountain's stuff, the toy or something, and the Mountain's anger overcame him and went and stuck his face.
He like burned him, so he has like.
Yeah.
Melted like scars. But their relationship too, when you get to the end of the season.
And the Hound. But Brienne Tarth, she swears to basically protect Catelyn Stark and the Stark family, all this. It's her oath. She's a very stand-up woman. She's huge,
she
though.
Makes a promise and
for any who do not know who Brienne Tarth is, she plays, what's her name on Star Wars? Silver Lady. Plasma? Something like that? Phasma? That's what
Phasma.
It's Phasma. On, the Silver Lady on the new Star Wars episodes.
We joke about, like, her being like Harlow, because Harlow's really pretty.
Yeah, our Great Dane.
But yeah, she always keeps her word, and she takes it upon herself to, like, take care of the Starks. Like, mainly Catelyn, Sansa, Arya, kind of, like, throughout her journey.
And so she's probably with all of them. She's with Catelyn for a while. She's with Arya for a little bit, and also with Sansa.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that really, we'll kind of jump here for a second, is her and Jaime Lannister's relationship. They start off kind of like, boom, 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 and then and they end up being really close to a point where we see in season 8.
You could tell that Brienne feels for Jaime. She's never been with a man before, right? Really?
No. I wouldn't imagine.
She saves Jaime at times. She saves her at times.
Yeah.
It's an interesting combination because everyone loves Brienne of Tarth just because she's like a good person, and Jaime has been shady. And so it's just like they bring out the good in each other, I feel like, when they have scenes together.
Yeah. Robb Stark is the King of the North, okay? He's kind of doing really good, going down, doing all these things, but then he gets caught into a little thing with, I can't remember his name, where he has to basically marry one of the guy's daughters, and the guy's daughters, no offense to
So they
them.
want to go over a bridge, right?
Yeah.
Or something to, like, go through, and they can only go through if, he agrees to marry.
He has to agree one of his daughters, and he fell in love with a nurse girl instead. And so instead of marrying a daughter, he marries the nurse lady. This is where we jump into the Red Wedding. Okay? This gets kind of crazy because Arya Stark, who's been lost and gone since the end of season 1, this is season 3, sorry now, she finally gets there, but she hasn't seen them yet. She's just barely seeing that, and then she's on the outskirts. And
it's a lot.
2 major characters die in this episode, and their heart, it's hard. It sucks.
I'm still recovering.
I filmed it, because I watched before, and then I filmed her watching it.
I lost the video. I'm so upset, but she couldn't. She took off upstairs.
So this is supposed to be Rob's wedding, right? It's supposed to be a good
and
time.
Rob
He's
is
actually
a good character.
They're having a baby, so his soon-to-be
Yes.
wife at this wedding, you know.
Yeah, and
she's pregnant.
Another thing I forgot. Like season 1, every single kid of the Stark family gets a wolf. Okay.
They found some wolf puppies.
But then it
who
so
lost their
happens,
mom.
so all the main kids get the a puppy, and then John Stark's right there. They find another one, and it's the runt of the litter, aka Ghost.
All white wolf.
And so they say, "Here, John, you get yours." So John takes Ghost up to.
So each wolf kind of becomes loyal to each Stark child.
But so all this stuff is going on, okay, and the whole big thing with the Red Wedding, and even with Ned stuff. Gets to the wall the whole time, wanting to go defend his family, wanting to go do something. Is Jon Snow, but he can't. He's part of the Night's Watch. That's your new family now.
Yeah, like you took an oath, you swore
Yeah,
your life.
and so he's doing stuff beyond the wall, and he gets captured by the wildlings. Mans Raider, the leader, the king, the king beyond the wall, and then he also finds a nice little redhead girl. Ygritte.
I think everyone loves Ygritte.
I like Jon Snow and Ygritte better than like Jon Snow and
it was just so
anyone else.
True and raw and
yeah. Famous line. Go.
You know nothing, Jon Snow.
Or maybe,
is that what it is?
Maybe I should do this.
Is that what she says?
Yeah.
You know nothing, Jon Snow.
But
it's a sweet relationship.
Yeah, and it's good because Jon Snow's not supposed to be in a relationship either. He's part of the Night's Watch, and so that becomes a big thing where Jon Snow ends up he goes back to the Wall, but then the Wildlings. Jon Snow's trying to work with the Wildlings, and it's just not working.
Yeah.
And because Jon Snow's basically saying like the Walkers are coming. And stuff. Winter is coming is a big thing for Winterfell and the Stark family. That's their saying.
Yeah.
And basically, that's not gonna work.
So
Ygritte's pissed off at Jon Snow for leaving her and going back to the Wall. And so when they storm the Wall, Jon's just looking for like that's his girl, And
Red Wedding.
Something happens there. So that's a big thing. They capture Mance Rayder, the Night's Watch does. Jon Snow, they try to burn him alive, but then Jon Snow shot an arrow at Mance Rayder to kill him, because he'd rather
that was a lot.
Die honorable.
Yeah, die right away than by a slow.
Because Jon Snow is a lot of friends with all these guys, And so some of the ones they captured, Jon Snow tried to make them all kind of be together, and the Night's Watch they hate wildlings. They want to kill them all.
Yeah.
And so that's another thing. I don't know how many seasons we're jumping right now.
We're just talking about things that come to mind.
Anyways, there's a little backstabbing. Right?
Yeah.
And it's a big old thing. It's a huge end of the season for one of the seasons it was where you left on a cliffhanger. Is someone dead or not?
Are they alive or are they not?
Alright, now we're going to jump back to Bran Stark, Rickon Stark, the little one you never hear of.
I like that one.
And what's his name from Iron?
Theon.
Theon goes back to. We haven't really talked about Theon. He goes back to the Iron Islands. Basically, goes back to
Do you know? Wait, so it's like Iron Islands, right?
Yeah.
For the longest time, I thought it was Ion Islands, and I realized that was just their accent. Is that sad?
It's a little
He's
weird.
the Ion Islands. Yeah.
So you thought they were saying iron built?
Like I-O-N. I thought it was
yeah,
the
you
Iron
thought it was
Islands.
iron built, not iron built.
Dude, yeah, I don't know.
Basically So he goes back to Winterfell trying to take it over because he was actually not captured. Just Ned Stark took him as a kid.
He was kind of raised by them, and he was raised with the Stark children.
Yeah, he wasn't like treated badly or anything.
Right. It's kind of a weird thing.
But anyways, he goes back there, tries to capture Bran Stark. Bran Stark and Rickon, they take off. Remember, Bran Stark's in a wheelchair now, also.
Paralyzed.
And they head north, and they go beyond the wall. And this is where we find the Three-Eyed Raven. And learn about that. That's a lot to get into.
That is.
Basically, Bran Stark can see visions of past stuff, anything or stuff that's going on in other ravens.
Present time.
Going there, anything.
And ravens deliver messages too, letters to people, their messengers.
And so that's going on with him. That's where I'm going to stop with Bran Stark. Let's jump back to Khaleesi or Daenerys Targaryen with Khal Drogo, end of season 1. Khal Drogo dies.
And this is sad because even though Khal Drogo, it took him a while to learn to be nice and love Khaleesi. They're having a child together now. At first, it was kind of a weird relationship, but then, you realize that they actually love each other. And so when he dies, by basically, how did he die? He was a sword and slice infection, fever.
One of his men was basically saying he doesn't take orders
from
her.
He was like, I don't listen to her.
And stuff like this. I don't listen to this. Basically calling her some stuff, so.
Because there had been some changes since they were together,
And, Khal Drogo basically stands up for her and says,
her.
Come at me, dude.
She's your queen.
And as they get into a big fight, Khal Drogo gets a little scratch, and so.
It doesn't seem that bad at first, right?
Well,
but over time, as they keep, they're traveling.
He kills this guy basically. Does he rip out his throat or?
I feel like that's his style.
Yeah. Anyways, so this little scratch gets infected, gets really bad.
He kind of has hallucinations. Basically loses himself.
Yeah. Sit.
And so he eventually dies, which is actually very sad because Khaleesi, she's put in a hard situation because she loves this guy, but she doesn't want to watch him suffer because he becomes someone who's not himself, when he's close on his deathbed.
Mm-hmm.
So she has to do something.
There's a whole big witch thing. Anyways, big fire happens. She goes back into the fire.
Her baby is...
Because her baby's dead.
She went... Yeah, I think all of this caused her to, go into labor, right?
Yeah.
Her baby didn't make it. She's devastated.
There's 3 dragon eggs, though, in there. And she goes in there with 3 dragon eggs in the big fire with Khal Drogo. Basically, everything's burned. She's just sitting there naked, and 3 dragons are just on her shoulders. Little baby dragons. That's huge.
This is a big part, yeah.
Because Targaryens are supposed to be the dragon people, too.
So
this goes on for a while. She goes off, and her dragons are become her army, get her following. She goes to places, breaker of chains, frees people. It's a nutshell. It's a nutshell for her. She just does all this stuff, finds a man, kind of falls in love a little bit, then leaves because she wants to be the power.
People are loyal to her.
Yeah, and she's not rude or anything.
She's a good leader, but she makes wise decisions, and she has the dragons behind her. So why would you not follow someone who has 3 strong dragons that follow and listen to her and protect her? They're kind of scary dragons, you know? They can take anyone out like that.
Eventually, she does meet up with a certain character, and Winterfell and the Wall, or Beyond the Wall, when they fight off White Walkers.
Mm-hmm.
Jon Snow.
Yeah, so that's interesting.
And I don't know if I want to go any further than that, though.
Yeah. But when they come together, things get interesting.
These characters who never talk, never do anything, they're different.
They're both kind of leaders.
They're far apart. Jon Snow he's the king of the North.
He went from a bastard child to he's a
good leader.
He's the guy.
Khaleesi, Daenerys, she's the queen. So it kind of shows them coming together. Whose side are they on? What are they fighting for? And who do they want to be the ruler? And who are they gonna overthrow?
Yeah. Okay, now we're gonna go to Cersei. Joffrey.
Everyone hates Cersei.
Stuff happens to Joffrey's, Sansa's still there. She kind of escapes with people at the end of when something happens to Joffrey.
Yeah.
And she escapes. We haven't really touched on Tyrion. Tyrion's the dwarf brother to Jaime and Cersei.
His dad never really loved him or got over it because his mother died in childbirth having him.
But yeah, then Cersei's next son, Tommen, comes into king, and then he
falls in love
with,
That's his downfall, falling in love.
And then something he does to himself.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so another kid passes and Cersei becomes queen.
And it's kind of interesting to think about Cersei and she loves her kids. Because she does everything for them, right?
A lot.
She does so much to protect them. Even think about Joffrey becoming king.
The daughter even, same thing.
Sending her daughter away to save her. But in the end, what does Cersei get? When you see everything. Where does Cersei stand? What blocks hit her? Which blocks? Things does she overcome?
That's clever.
She hit some roadblocks, definitely.
Definitely maybe hit some sidewalk blocks. I don't know.
So it's just interesting to think about how much she goes through for her kids and think about where she's at the end. And if she's still fighting for that.
Yeah. But yeah, so Cersei is just a biatch though. She is.
Yeah, and even though they're twins, I think a lot of people can say that they like Jaime better.
Yeah.
Because he does go through these phases of being rude, evil, I'm in charge, to having these moments of oh, I feel for you, I can sympathize with you. But Cersei doesn't. She's just you're in my way, dead. You hate me, dead.
Mm-hmm.
But she loves her brother to the end.
So are we missing any major characters now?
I don't know. I think Arya's kind of gone through her journey of everything.
Arya,
she's growing,
many faces,
fighting. She's strong.
A man is no one. A girl is no one. Goes through all that. You'll figure that out.
The girl has no name.
Girl has no name. I'm doing all this so that way you guys just go watch it.
Yeah. What comes to mind? What do you have on?
Towards the end, you have these 3 different powerhouses. You have Khaleesi or Daenerys Targaryen. You got Jon Snow.
Their relationship with Jon Snow, Khaleesi.
And then you got
Cersei
in the back, but Daenerys and Jon Snow combined forces because of the powerhouse that's happened beyond the wall.
They've had to come together to fight.
The White Walkers have a dead army. So basically, anyone who dies, even their own army, becomes part of the dead army. They just come back and they rise because literally the the Night King just goes like this, boom.
And everyone who's dead is just bloop, I'm alive.
Go like that, and yeah. And so the
gets,
dead army just grows nonstop.
But the dead army also gets a big player on their side as well during this time, which is devastating, but also helps their side out and makes them become even scarier.
This guy has some breath that's overtaking.
Yeah. His hot breath becomes icy.
Yeah, icy hot.
Basically.
And so Jon Snow, Daenerys, they try to go. And Jon Snow bends the knee to Daenerys. I'm gonna throw that out there. I know that's a spoiler, but that
which a lot of people, his sisters especially, Sansa has.
But he did it for a good reason. But still, it's
You know, Daenerys is strong.
But Jon Snow grew up as always, like, why am I doing this?
He's like, I'm not, like, he's a good leader, but he's not, like, in it for the fame.
But he also doesn't know what his actual history is. He, you know, like I said, his bloodline.
Does he have,
you know,
some special blood?
We know he has Stark blood. I've given that away.
Right.
Anyway, so through this, him and Daenerys, they fly down with the dragons, go to King's Landing, try to meet up with Cersei. Cersei's basically like, I ain't help. Or does she tell him she's gonna help? And doesn't help?
Yeah, there's something weird.
It's where they even bring a dead army, a person.
To prove to them. But a big turning point in this for Khaleesi, I think, is when her best friend, lady, what's her name?
That's later. But yeah, that's after the White Walker fight.
Okay, I just mean with their relationship with Cersei.
Yeah.
Things change forever at that point.
Yeah, well, Cersei never goes to help them. There is a big battle between White Walker, the dead army. Just so you know, before this, another certain big army person because we've already lost one, another big army person lost another fight with down south. So they're just pinched between these two, you know, powerhouses, the White Walker army, King's Landing army, and they're just like, oh my gosh. And they got dragons, big players, you know.
Yeah.
But then one of the big players drops on both ends, so they only have one. But
which I hate.
And Dracarys. Yeah. And so basically, when one of the battles is done, you know, it's kind of obvious which one's going to end first. It's going to be the White Walker one, okay? And this is all I got to say. Oh, crap, I can't even do it. And she did, you know. Dude!
What are you trying to do?
I'm trying to be like the boss. Let's see. Put my hand here. Boom. Boom. You know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah. Okay. That's the only spoiler I'll give for that.
Okay.
We do lose a big character in that one. Well, you lose big characters throughout Game of Thrones, so...
Yeah, it kind of sucks because you have favorites, you learn to like people, and then you can lose them.
It's just hard because anyone can die at any time.
Right.
No one is safe.
You learn that right away in the series.
Then we get to the Battle of King's Landing. You know, they go to there, try to meet with Cersei, but one of Daenerys' best friends is captured, and they're trying to say, "Hey, give her back. Please surrender.
Let's figure this
out. Everyone can survive. No death needs to happen."
And the captured friend knows.
We don't need to say what captured friend it is. We can say what happens to captured friend.
Okay, but I'm saying captured friend knows what's going to happen in the end.
Yeah, she's just kind of like...
She's accepted her fate. She knows that Cersei is evil.
Anyways, they chop her head off.
They cut off her head.
Popped her head off.
The head goes rolling. And this is dark.
Yeah,
this is a dark
moment. This is where you see Daenerys become Khaleesi, not Daenerys Targaryen. Well, a little bit. Maybe Targaryen. You see Targaryen, I guess. I shouldn't say. You definitely see Targaryen.
Everything changes because she's pissed.
Yeah. Her face, like little, you know, she walks off. She's like back, like she's basically saying, "I'm gonna kill that biatch."
Grey Worm.
Yeah. You'll get into that. Anyways, this is where it comes to the very end.
Khaleesi's journey, what she decides to do.
You see some character arcs. You see.
Relationship.
You understand how much freaking bells on a tower, how much they mean and how much they actually don't mean. And you also see some decisions that are made that kind of like piss you off in so many ways.
Yeah.
And if you guys have seen memes of Game of Thrones and season 8 and how it was bad, it's mostly just because of this.
And Cersei's actions. What does she choose to do?
Cersei's actions, Daenerys' actions, Jon Snow's actions.
What's his face?
Just even the writing. I think the writing was terrible how it ended. Like, are you serious? The characters that we've loved through all the seasons. I know this is Game of Thrones, you know.
Yeah, but Game of Thrones makes you wait. Like, how long before seasons come out? So it's like you're so invested, and then you wait a year.
It was 2 years, I thought. It was like a year and a half.
You wait forever. So then you rewatch seasons, and you were invested in this, and for it.
Just to have your favorite character just go off like that, that's, there's only one good thing about that. And this is going to be my spoiler for you. This is the only good part about season freaking 8. This.
Ollie.
Doggo. There's your cameo all over. Oh my gosh. I got heated right there.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is there anything else you want to add to our...
I just think that for people who haven't seen Game of Thrones, I know, right away I was like, it's just kind of like medieval stuff, right? Like, people are weird, there's sword fighting, and I heard there were dragons, but I was just like, that doesn't really seem like something I'm into. No thanks.
Yeah.
And then when we started watching it, I was like, okay, wow, this is a lot bigger than just that. Like, characters, relationships, time frame, I just think people who haven't given it a chance because, the whole world talks about it and they're like, oh, I'm too cool for it. I just think that you should give it a try. Be open-minded like Jenna Fisher. She just started watching Game of Thrones.
That's who plays Pam on The Office.
And she realized that, wow, this is so much better and so much different than I thought. It would be like.
Yeah.
And that's true.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to hear, if people have seen it, who their favorite characters are, the biggest character change, relationship.
Comment down below or to the side. Yeah.
What you guys think.
Wherever your comment
box is. And we go
box
through
is.
things really fast and kind of just what sparks.
Yeah. We don't want to.
Sometimes
we don't want to go over everything. So that way you guys, why don't I even watch it? I already know what's going to happen.
Or why don't you even talk about this? Let us know.
Yeah, let us know. We'll talk about it on our next Sunday review. If you guys have any questions or anything, we can touch that before we go into our next stuff.
Any specific episodes, we can show some parts of scenes next week, turning points.
Yeah.
Early on in the season, so we won't give too much away.
All right.
Hit subscribe.
Subscribe. Peace out. Love ya. Oh, I said love ya. Here's some. Other doggos.